So this pre-release is one from the summer of 2016 in the UK area and Europe, and it says, in preparation for the exam, candidates should attempt the following practical tasks by writing and testing a program. The manager of a parcel delivery service needs a program to check the size and weight of parcels to determine which parcels can be accepted for delivery. So this time we need to, in task 1, check the size and weight of a single parcel. Each parcel must obey the following rules to be accepted for delivery. Each dimension must be no more than 80 centimetres. The sum of the 3 dimensions must be no more than 200 centimetres. The weight of the parcel must be between 1 and 10 kilograms inclusive. Input and store the weight and dimensions for one parcel. All the dimensions and weights must be validated on entry and an unsuitable parcel rejected. Output if the parcel is accepted or rejected. If rejected, output all the reasons why the parcel was rejected. So task 2, we need to check a customer's consignment of parcels, input and store a number of parcels in the consignment, calculate the number of parcels accepted and the total weight of the parcels accepted. For each parcel that was rejected, output all the reasons why that parcel was rejected. Output the number of parcels accepted and total weight of parcels accepted. Output the number of parcels rejected. So basically what we've got, we're going to check out each individual parcel. We're then going to have a consignment where, you know, maybe someone's selling stuff on eBay or something and they've got 4 or 5 different parcels. We're going to say that's a customer's consignment, and then input and store whether or not each one of those parcels in that consignment were accepted or rejected. And then finally for task 3, we need to calculate the price, and there's some rules there. If it's from 1 kilogram to 5 kilograms, then we're going to charge $10. And if it's over that, then for every 100 grams over 5 kilograms up to 10 kilograms, which is the maximum weight, then it's an extra 10 cents for every 100 grams. Okay, so let's have a think about this. Okay, so we've got this parcel and we need to check it. We need to let the user input the data to check the parcel, and we've got some rules for that. So each of the dimensions, so when it talks about dimensions, it's talking about the width, which would be this here, the width, and the height, that would be here, and also the depth. So the depth is here. You could also call that the length, length or depth. It doesn't really matter. As long as we've got those 3 dimensions, those 3 together, it says in the instructions no more than 80 centimetres for each one of those. So up to 80 for each one of those. And then also all added together, then it mustn't be more than 200. The weight of the parcel needs to be between 1 and 10 kilograms. So let's have a think about what the steps are. So basically the first thing is we are going to input the data. So input those 4 things, dimensions and weight. And then we need to add up the dimensions. And then we need to see if any of the dimensions or any of the rules are broken. And if they are, then we need to print out. If not, accept the parcel. Okay, so nice, simple, just sort of checking the data, and those are our basic steps. So we can do a flowchart for that. So let's do a flowchart to start with. So I'm using Draw.io for this. This is free software on the internet, and I'm just going to do a flowchart of task 1. So this will just be a start here for my flowchart. Then we've got those inputs, so we need to put our inputs in, and we're going to input the weight, we're also going to input the width, the height, and the depth. Oh, it's auto-corrected that for me. The width, the height, and the depth. There we go. Okay, good. I'm going to add I could add some arrows now. Let's add some arrows on there. So after that, what we're going to do is we're going to check the weight to see if that's acceptable. So we're going to need a decision box for that. Let's get our decision box on, and we're going to check the weight, and if the weight is between 1 to 10 kilograms, then that's going to be okay. So we could say in this is the weight between 1 and 10, or less than 1, greater than 10, but I think weight 1 between 1 to 10 probably the best way. If it is, then that's okay. We can carry on and check. So we can then check the, there we go. We can check the weight, the width, the height, and the depth as well. Each individually greater than 80, like that. And if they're okay, then we're going to check all 3 dimensions. So that would be weight plus height plus depth greater than 200. So if any of those are okay, then we can accept the parcel. So I'm just going to do it so that we can accept the parcel first, and then if we're going to reject the parcel, we can do that in a moment. So let's just add that one in. There we go. So if all of those 3 things are okay, the weight, the width, the height, the depth, and those 3 things added together, then we can accept the parcel. So we can output that the parcel's been accepted. And we can end. That's it. Nice and easy. We can just end. Good. Now, if the parcel is not the right size, or it is too heavy, then we're going to reject it. So I'm just going to actually just finish here doing parcel accepted. There we go, and parcel accepted, end. Okay, so if there's any of those are not good, then we're going to output the reasons why it's rejected. Okay, parcel rejected because of the weight. If it is too big, just put parcel rejected because of the width, the height, and the depth. Just put it into there. There we go. And if the total dimensions are incorrect as well, we're going to output that too. Okay, so now the way that the flowchart will work is if the parcel is rejected, then we're going to add that in. We're going to add that in here, but then we probably need to flow back. So if we are rejecting it, once we've done that, we need to then come back out here and check the weight as well. So it's kind of a bit of a weird one here, because you have to output all the reasons. You don't just automatically reject everything. You have to state the reasons why everything was rejected. So I guess this, yeah, we'll just do it separately here, like that, and then we would go to end, like that. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that. I think that's going to be okay. I can't see anything on my. It's got a line down there. Not quite sure what's going on. Oh, there we are. Bit of a strange line there, but I'll sort that out later. So we're going to code this now. Actually, what we'll do first is we'll do some pseudocode for this first, okay? So the pseudocode is actually going to be fairly simple. Again, I mean, we can kind of use those main points here that we've already done already to build a lot of the pseudocode. And so we've got input, our weight, our height, our depth, and our width. And then we're going to check. We would say if the weight is greater, or sorry, yeah, is less than 0. Or is it less than 1? Yeah, less than 1. Or the weight is greater than 10, then we're going to output print weight not correct. And just put an end if there. There we go. Then we can do exactly the same with all the others. Just do if the width is greater than 80, then I realise I've left out, I'm doing this kind of in Python here, so I'm just going to correct. It's very easy to start doing Python when you're doing other things. Right, so then we're going to print, if the width's greater, then we're just going to print width not too big, width too big, and then end if, and we can do the same with the depth. And then we can do the same with the last one. Width, depth, height, it's the height, isn't it? If height is greater than 80, then print height too big. Okay, and then we're just going to add everything together as well. So just going to add everything together. If the height plus the depth plus the width is greater than 200, then we're going to print out total dimensions too big. And what else do we need to do? We've checked the weight, we've checked all 3 dimensions, that's it. Otherwise the parcel is going to be accepted. Okay, good. So that's basically our code there. Now there is one thing as well that we might want to do, and that is have a Boolean variable or of some kind that's going to be set to say whether or not the parcel has been accepted or rejected. But I'll put that into the code in a minute. And the reason for that, you'll see, is it will sort of hold the overall value whether or not the parcel is accepted. Well, actually what I'll do is I'll create the variable here, I'll call it accepted, and I'm going to set that equal to true. And what's going to happen is, actually, if I'm going to add something here, if that parcel is rejected at any point, we can just set accepted. I've realised I've just spelled accepted incorrectly there as well. So I'll just re-add that. It's very easy to make spelling mistakes. So accepted equals true, and then here where it's accepted is going to be equal to false. So we just set that to false whenever any of these things are broken, and that will just hold an overall true or false whether or not the parcel is accepted. And we're going to use that later on, as you'll see. So I'm just going to add that in here, accepted equals false. Now I didn't put this in my flowchart, so I could add that in as well, but I'm going to leave it for now. There we go. Okay, so let's get some Python code for this now. Okay, so we're going to create our variable called accepted and set that to true. So we're going to assume that it's going to be true to start with, and capital T, sorry. There we go. And then we're going to get all our inputs. So if you remember from our pseudocode, what we're actually doing is we're getting input and then we're going to check each one. So let's get those coded. So each one of these, if we input the weight first, the weight is going to be, I'm going to put these as floats. I'm going to cast these to float when we input them, because, you know, parcel isn't going to be a round number, is it? and I think the dimensions won't be a round number, so we'll use a float. So enter parcel weight, and then we're going to enter the height. Then the width, doesn't really matter which order. We put these in. And remember, we need to put them all in. It doesn't matter if one of them is rejected. We need to check everything to see if any of the reasons that they're rejected. So the height, the width and the depth. There, okay. So now we have got the user to input those values, we can just start to run this and think, what are we going to check here? So we are going to check, first of all, the weight. So we're going to check the weight. Is the weight less than 0 or the weight greater than 10? Could be 10, could be 1. Actually, it wasn't 0, was it? It was 1. Sorry. If the weight is less than 1 or the weight is greater than 10, then we're going to reject the parcel. So we can say accepted equals false, and we're going to print out the reason why it was rejected. Okay, now we're going to check the height. If the height is greater than 80, then we don't have to worry that this is centimetres. We could probably put a prompt here and say in centimetres, not in weight, in kilograms for that one, and then a prompt here to say centimetres. That might help, just so that the user knows. Add those. Good. So if the height's bigger, then we're going to do almost exactly the same. So I'm just going to copy and paste that because it's much quicker. Ooh. There we go. And accepted is false again. It might already be false, but it doesn't matter if it is. It will just set it to false again. Print the pass is rejected due to the height too big. Okay. What else we're going to do is say if the width is greater than 80, then it's going to be exactly the same. I'm just going to copy that because it was slightly easier. There we go. The width is going to be too big. And then lastly, if the depth is greater than 80, then we're going to reject due to the it's not plain ball there. Okay, depth. Okay, so the last thing then is we're going to check the total. If you remember our code here, we had our pseudocode, we had to check here whether or not the width plus the depth plus the height is greater than 200. So let's do that. If the depth plus the height plus the width is greater than 200, then we're going to reject it as well. Okay. Okay, so let's test that now. So when we're testing this, we need to make sure that we test all of the if statements. So I'm going to do a parcel that's completely accepted. And actually that reminds me, if you see, actually, if I do one that's accepted, and I'm just going to put some values in to make sure that they're okay, it doesn't actually tell us that it's accepted. So I've forgotten to do that. So let's just add that in now. And what we'll do is we'll just do a little if statement and say if accepted is equal to true, then we can just print parcel accepted. Okay, let's try that and run that. And I'll make sure it's accepted again. So we've got 4, and then I'll just add some just some small values, so it should be accepted. That's accepted. Good. We'll run it again. So let's run this again, and what we'll do is we'll just do it so that it rejects it for everything. So I'm going to have it as 11. I'm going to have it as 90, 90, 90. And there we go. So the parcel is rejected because it's out of weight range, too high, too wide, too deep, and the parcel is rejected due to the total dimensions being too big as well. So I'm happy that that's been tested fully.